What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Hopefully you had a good weekend overall, got a chance to play some games. We had a lot of fun here, did the Spawn cast, which was a good time. We talked about building controllers for your Nintendo Switch. We actually built a 6-button Genesis controller and a Super Famicom controller. I really like that one, by the way, just the rainbow buttons and everything in great shape that I got from that convention, Long Island Retro. And we also checked out a Cosmic Star Harem, which is a pretty cool little indie game that came to the Switch recently, and it's kind of made in the same vein as like a Chrono Trigger. Pretty neat. Today, though, we have some fun stuff to get into. I guess we should talk a bit about what happened over the weekend for people that probably missed it and are hearing about it here and there, because a tweet went out and kind of sent a good chunk of the Nintendo Switch fan base, just video game in general, just that side of the internet, kind of scrambling and trying to figure out what's going on, if it's correct or not. We're going to go over that, and that's that Switch revision tweet that went out, because everybody is sending me messages about it, and I figure we'll just cover it today in Newswave. And also, first though, we do have the Nvidia event that's coming up. Should be noon time for me, Eastern time, so it's in a couple hours if you're catching this when it first goes up. We're going to stream that because Nvidia is rumored to have a couple of video cards there to show off, to kick off their next line of cards beyond the 1080, the 1070, 1060. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully everything will go well with the streaming software and we'll be able to stream and watch that. It should be a good time though to see, I guess, what Nvidia is going to try to sell us for $700 with some of the big video cards. Hopefully they have some smaller ones too. Other than that though, let's get into some of the quick news, starting with, let's talk about the production of the Nintendo Switch, the analyst predictions. Now, of course, Nintendo said that they are going to try to reach 20 million units in this fiscal year, and that has people a bit confused because with their current lineup, people aren't sure if Pokemon Let's Go and Smash are going to be enough to get it there. Of course, that also counts the first few months in 2019, so there could be some earlier releases, something like a Fire Emblem, but people are a little concerned, and there have been a lot of people kind of backing off of that, saying they're not going to be able to get there. But one place in Japan, specifically an analyst firm, actually is saying, no, not 20 million, 25 million units. And I know it's hard to believe, I guess, but this is from ACE Economic Research Institute in Osaka, and that's actually from the firm's analyst Hideki Yatsuda, who is saying that not only will Nintendo make a ton of money, but they might even ramp up production over the summer. So that is something Nintendo has so far denied, but according to them, they believe Nintendo will actually cruise right past that 20 million mark and actually hit 25 million units by next year's, I guess, end of March. That would be then. Yeah, so it would be interesting to see that, but could they do that? That is the question. It really comes down to how is Pokemon received, and I guess how many copies of Smash can they supply, because the Smash, I think, along with Pokemon, are their two big pillars, along with Mario Party being like a supplement, kind of like how Kirby was. So we're gonna see. But that, Nintendo's lineup, according to them, they think 25 million. Oh, and check this out. If you're on Steam a lot, maybe you're buying games on there, or playing Dota a lot, or Team Fortress, or just any other games on there, you might be wondering about Valve and possibly streaming games, kind of building that into the Steam platform so you don't have to go to, I guess, like Twitch or something like that. Could they be opening up their own service to stream games or view streamed games? Well, it looks like that could be something that's coming up, as a URL was found on Twitter. This was actually posted by Pavel. It's steam.tv, and they are absolutely correct. It does appear to be real, as people have been doing some detective work, checking people who are registering the account and everything, the URL, the certificates and everything in the back end, and it does appear to be owned by Valve. And Pavel is actually the SteamDB creator. So if they say it's real, I'm inclined to believe them. And this is an interesting thing to think about. Possibly a competitor for Twitch that's built into Steam, so you don't have to leave Steam to then go stream on Twitch with, like, say, OBS or something. Maybe it's all built into Steam, like you launch it. It's part of, like, when you hit Shift-Tab, it comes up and click Stream and you're off. I don't know, would they be able to integrate all of that with, like, Streamlabs and everything? Or maybe everything just kind of comes together and you can use OBS next to it? It's interesting to think about. Now, the last time it was actually active, because every time I go to it, it's blank, it was showing them streaming Dota 2. So nothing currently, but maybe they've been kind of playing around with it, and maybe Steam will eventually be able to stream games. I mean, it could happen. It makes sense. Valve wants everything to be inclusive to Steam, so yeah, let's stream games through it. With some of the quick news out of the way, guys, let's jump into some of the bigger stuff. We're going to jump right into the Switch revision talk. It was all over the internet on Sunday. It was crazy. Marcus Sellers put out a tweet. You're going to see it here. We'll actually go ahead and read it off. Nintendo will be releasing an improved version of the Nintendo Switch early 2019. This console will have 8 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes of internal storage, and dynamic scaling up to 4K. Some third-party games will only release on this version. All Nintendo-produced games will release on both. Now, Marcus has since deleted that tweet for undisclosed reasons, apparently. Maybe it was giving away a source. Maybe he did make it up. I don't know. But that tweet is no longer there, so take that as you will. And not everyone responded to this as positively as you'd think. We even had a pair from IGN or NBC even calling Marcus out, which was surprising, I guess, a bit. You'll actually see that tweet here where he says, "Hey, Marcus just saw this. That's totally made up. Don't trust to repeat everything you hear." So people have been kind of going after him as well, but it did kind of spark the conversation because we also had another interesting quote from the developers at Ubisoft for Rainbow Six Siege, where they said it won't play on this Nintendo system. And of course, we keep hearing about Nintendo possibly working on new SoCs. I know Super Metal Dave did a video where he kind of looked at job listings and everything. So this has been ongoing for a while now, where people have been trying to piece together what Nintendo's working on. I think it's pretty clear, based on just look at Nintendo's history, there will be a revision of the Switch, and honestly, if they get to March and there still isn't one, that would actually be pretty late for them, considering things like the DS Lite came out a year and a half, the original DS came out, so that was pretty quick. I think Game Boy Advance SP was just as fast as well, so it's not uncommon with Nintendo's handhelds to release a revision right away, and since at this point their home console and handheld division are kind of merged with the Switch, essentially, where it can be a home console and then a portable unit, I mean, they could do that, and I wouldn't be surprised if they come out with one as early, I personally think as early as holiday 2019 or as late as 2021, possibly to try to match up a little closer to what the PlayStation 5 and Xbox 2 would be, not necessarily match them, but be in the ballpark, I guess, to where it could get some sort of port from a third-party developer, although at that point, we'll be coming up on 4 years of the Switch being out, so they might want to think more about next-generation Switch as opposed to revision. So for revision, yeah, you would look 2-3 years in, and that would be sometime between 2019 and 2020. As for things like the 128 gigabytes of storage, I'm not really sure why Nintendo would drop that on board when you could buy an SD card. That's a place I think that they would consider trying to save money if they can cut it off of the system, and building that much in terms of flash storage onto the system, I mean, they would probably rather pass that off to us. If they could have done it, they would have put it into the $300 Switch. So I don't know how they beef up the hardware, double the RAM, and then just make that storage so much larger to 128 and then have it anywhere under $400. I mean, I'm hearing $350. From what they just described with a more powerful SoC, I have no idea how that's less than $400 with the Joy-Con controllers, a dock, everything else. It doesn't really make sense. And at that point, who is it really for? It's probably for enthusiasts, people who would want a better image, a better frame rate with the same games. And I think with what Nintendo's doing with their system, with their Switch, why would you do anything outside of segmenting? Why would you segment the fan base? From what Marcus said at the end of it, that third-party developers could just release a single game on that version and not on the other version of the Switch. I don't know why you would leave what would probably be about 30 to 40 million people behind for a system that won't sell as well. The PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X do not sell as well as the Xbox One S and the PS4, and that comes down to pricing. So I don't really know why you would leave all those people behind, put the budget out to port something to a system that might only have 4 to 5 million people actually owning the system. Now, of course, Nintendo has released 4 games, I think, on the new 3DS XL that only play on the new 3DS XL. I think that's like, Fire Emblem Warriors, then you have Minecraft, Binding of Isaac, and Xenoblade. So they've done this, but out of the mass library of 3DS games, only 4 are just specifically for that system. It is almost not worth making it just for that reason. It's worth making it so other games like Smash Bros. And stuff load up faster and play better, right? I mean, that's the only reason I would really buy one. If a new Switch revision came out, I would buy it because the other games would play at a higher resolution and a higher frame rate. So the thing to take away from this is, while Marcus may have the details incorrect for what this next Switch revision could be. I think it's clear that Nintendo is working on something. There probably is a Switch revision coming in the next year and a half. I'll just say year and a half to 2 years, okay? Because any longer than that, you might as well start thinking about the next Switch, the next generation Switch. This is the company that randomly shows up with a 2DS XL after having the Switch announced and out there and shown and everything. So don't write Nintendo off for anything. They'll do anything crazy. You can never predict what they're gonna do, but I fully expect a Switch revision to be talked about, like I said, within the next year, year and a half, and then probably released up to then or 2 years later. Next up, let's talk about Splatoon 2, specifically Splatoon 2 hackers, Splatoon 2 cheaters. For a while there, if you remember, people were doing some crazy stuff. They were hacking their way to the top of the leaderboards to yell at Nintendo about there being no way to stop these cheaters with an anti-cheat system of some kind. Well, what's really funny about this, because I've made a video here about this, about the person who hacked their way to the top to try to get Nintendo's attention. What's weird about this situation is it actually appears that Nintendo has had an anti-cheat system in place. It's very weird, but if you look over here on this site, that's oatmealdome.me, they talk specifically about Nintendo introducing the anti-cheat for Splatoon 2 since version 3.1.0, and that was back in the middle of June that was introduced, and they've even known about it, according to them, for several months. And the way this works is it will actually flag a person regardless if they're using mods, but just simply from edits in the game. And after you're flagged, it appears there's some kind of review process, and then you are banned the following day. So essentially 24 hours later after a review has taken place, you are then banned. And it makes sense why the person who hacked their way to the leaderboards and then, just messed that whole thing up yelling at Nintendo was then banned about 24 hours later because their system was already in place. Now, people are saying this still isn't the best system because somebody can pretty much do whatever they want for 24 hours online. They can hack all over the place and ruin the experience. I think they're looking more for something that flags you immediately and kicks you immediately. Like, you didn't get into a game. As soon as it sees that your stuff is edited, you're out. Like, that's it. So we'll see if they attempt to modify it. This could also be a system that is set to learn, like machine learning, or it just learns over time. So it's very possible that it gets better at reviewing what it flags and then kicks them to where we could get it to where it's like one game. They play one game, it reviews it, and it flags it, and it's gone. That's it. So we'll see if they improve this or if it is something that is learning over time. But it's good to know Nintendo is at least implementing something with the Splatoon 2 hackers, cheaters that have appeared and done crazy things as far as to, ruin people's games, but also unlock maps that aren't even out there yet and throw people into the game. It's very weird, so I hope Nintendo gets this worked out, but it seems like they're at least taking some steps to correct this. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about the MPD charts, kind of. See, they were leaked out. I checked with 2 other sources. They appear to be correct, and what I heard made me fairly happy. It made me have, some faith in the gaming community, in the gaming world. Because it looks like Octopath Traveler is set. Again, they're going to officially announce all of this and show it on Tuesday. We'll go over it on Wednesday officially with the full charts and everything. It looks like Octopath Traveler did top July at the #1 spot. So #1 overall in July, and it should only count physical sales, by the way, because they can't track eShop sales. Appears to be Octopath Traveler. What does that mean for this hardware side? It looks like the Switch took July as the #1 spot for systems, and it wasn't even by like a little bit. It was by according to some of the numbers that have come out, 70 to 80,000 units above the PS4. They were saying the Switch, if you count the Switch as 100%, the PS4 was 71% of this, what the Switch sold, and the Xbox One was below that even. So yeah, Octopath Traveler, an exclusive to the Switch, a JRPG that is mostly modeled after JRPGs from the early to mid-90s, tops the American sales charts for video games. Think about that for a second and then realize how impressive that is. It really is. This is a game that jumped to 1 million units very quickly. It will probably end up outselling some bigger games like a Persona 5, for example, though Persona 5 is a maturity game, whereas Octopath's a teen, so it's a bit easier for a younger consumer to show up and buy Octopath as opposed to Persona 5. But to see a game like this that is not, to some people, impressive visually. There are people who even question the $60 price tag because of the way it looked, which is still crazy to me because I think it's a good looking game. Personally, I love the art style. And just the way it plays, it does not play like a game from 2018. It plays like a game from the PS1 RPG, early PS1 RPG days, late Super Nintendo RPG days. So it's cool to see. We'll get the official numbers. Well, not really the official numbers, official placements on Wednesday. We'll go over all of that. It should be an exciting time to see Octopath at the top. And, of course, this will just make Square look at the Switch and say, well, I guess we'll have to make more games for that system in this same sense with old school RPGs, and maybe they do more new IP. Octopath Traveler is a new IP. I mean, think about that. It's a brand new IP. JRPG tops the sales charts in the US, and it's very impressive to see that. It's a great job, and we'll get the official stuff. Like I said, Tuesday night, we'll go over it Wednesday. Hey guys, that's where I'm going to leave Newswave today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys like the video if you liked it, dislike it. If not, leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, the Switch revision. Would you be all for a more powerful Switch as long as the game's played across, but would you be really frustrated if it was technically segmented between the two? Not necessarily for the nice one, the more expensive Switch to play everything, but the older Switch won't be able to play certain games. Would that frustrate you? Let me know about that down below. What about Octopath topping the sales charts? Let me know about that, because I think people are going to be pretty excited to see a JRPG like that top the charts in the US. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.